Hola a todos, hoy vamos a hablar del pluscuamperfecto en español. So today we are going to talk about the past perfect in Spanish, and it is worth noting that this is also called el pretérito pluscuamperfecto. So you have two names for this tense. You have the shorter version, which is el pluscuamperfecto, and you have the longer version, which is el pretérito pluscuamperfecto. Now, this is a very simple tense because it is used for one purpose, and that one purpose is to talk about a past action that was completed before another past action occurred. So, yeah, that is exactly what it is used for. If we have two events and we want to talk about, or we want to mention the action that occurred first in the sequence, we use the past perfect. Okay? So to talk about an action that occurred before another action. Simple. That's the only time we use the past perfect. Right? And of course, we're going to see examples shortly, but before we get to the examples, let us look at the formation. So this is a compound tense. It comprises the imperfect form of haber and the past participle of the main verb. We're not going to spend any time on the formation of the past participle because I would have already done that in the previous video, which was on el pretérito perfecto, the present perfect. In that video, I explained how to form the past participle of regular verbs, and I also gave you the irregular forms. So if you haven't checked out that video, you can check it out because you can check it out. Well, no, because it is available in the description below. Okay, so if you do not know how to form the past participle, please check out that video. But we're going to look at the first part, which is the imperfect form of haber. And haber would be our auxiliary verb, which means that it tells us who performs the action, right? So, yo había, tú habías, él, ella, usted había. Nosotros, nosotras habíamos, vosotros, vosotras habíais, ellos, ellas, ustedes habían. Now let's get to the examples. 1. Cuando regresé al hotel, mi madre ya había salido. When I returned to the hotel, my mother had already left. So we have two events. Of course, there are two past events, but one occurred before the other. Therefore, we use the past perfect to talk about or to mention the first action in the sequence. So this is why we use the past perfect here because this is essentially saying my mother had left before I returned to the hotel. That's essentially what this is saying. My mother had left or had already left before I returned to the hotel. Because when I returned to the hotel, she was not there. That means she had already left. So that action took place before my return. Therefore, we need the past perfect. I could not use the preterite there because then that would suggest that my mother left once I returned. So she only left when I returned to the hotel. That's not the meaning we want to convey. We want to say that occurred first. So we use the past perfect there. I could also switch the order. Mi madre ya había salido cuando regresé al hotel. My mother had already left when I return to the hotel. Right? Doesn't really matter. The order doesn't really matter as long as the past perfect is used with the first event in the sequence. Okay? Dos. Frank había hecho la maleta antes de que su esposa reservara el vuelo. So Frank had packed his suitcase before his wife booked the flight. So once again, Frank did this before his wife did that. Right? So Frank had done this before his wife did that. So this action necessitates the past perfect because this occurred before that. Right? So the antes de would indicate that would be triggered to let us know that we need to use the past perfect because it indicates that this action preceded that action. So anytime we get any indication that an action occurred before another action, we need to use the past perfect. So and the antes de would be the trigger in this case. In the previous example, when we had ya, that adverb ya already, we know that we need the past perfect because that indicates that this action occurred first, right? So anytime we have any indication that an action took place before another action, we need to use the past perfect, right? 3 or 3. Ella nunca había viajado a Francia, así que se sentía nerviosa. She had never traveled to France, so she felt nervous. Okay. So in this case, we're given some background details. So por qué se sentía nerviosa? Porque nunca había viajado a Francia. Because she had never traveled to France. So this is providing some background information to explain her anxiety, right? In this case, in previous examples, we would have talked about about a sequence and having to use the past perfect with the first event of the sequence, right? But in this case, this is more, this example, this first part is more explaining why she felt nervous because she had never done something, as opposed to this being in a sequence, right? So this is more giving background details, right? But we would use the past perfect here. Because it's given, it is an explanation, but it's in the past. Right. So she had never traveled to France. So that was why she felt nervous. So these are background details that explain why she felt nervous. Right? All right. Hemos completado la lección. Como ustedes ven, es un tiempo verbal sencillo. Muchas gracias por ver como siempre y hasta pronto.